She walked in like a breezelight, unnoticed, dismissed. Minutes later, the air turned electric, and when the glass doors slammed open again, the entire bank froze. Because the man who entered didn't knock, conquered the room with a glance. He wasn't a customer. He was consequence. And he came for one thing only. I'm here for my wife. That's when it all began to unravel. A woman too plain for pearls, too modest for marble, walked into Sterling Sky Bank, a place where even the air smelled expensive. No heels, no designer bag, no glittering diamonds, just a quiet confidence that made them uncomfortable. She wasn't what they were used to. And that, apparently, was her first crime. Within minutes, the same guards who stood tall like statues straightened further, as if offended by the simplicity in her stride. The chandeliers above gleamed like judgmental eyes. Laura just wanted to withdraw $500. What she got instead? A humiliation so sharp it could cut glass. "Excuse me," she said politely to the nearest security guard. "Where can I withdraw money from my account?" The words were harmless until they weren't. The guard, a thick-set man in his early 40s, looked her over like she'd walked into a gala wearing flip-flops. "ATMs are to the left, ma'am, but this branch is mostly for VIP clients." His tone was casual. His face wasn't. Laura felt something pinch inside her chest. This was the Sterling Sky Bank flagship, the one from all those glossy ads. Not once had anyone said it was exclusive. She forced a smile, nodded, and walked in further. She wasn't here to argue. She just needed to get on with her day. Everything sparkled, counters polished to a mirror sheen. Staff dressed like they were about to close a billion-dollar merger. She approached the teller desks, her eyes catching the identical silver pins on each suit like some sort of polished army. The first teller she met was a young woman named Christina, whose smile vanished quicker than free samples at a luxury gala the moment she saw Laura's jeans. "I'd like to make a withdrawal," Laura said, trying to keep her voice neutral. Christina arched a brow. "Our minimum withdrawal from the desk is $10,000. Smaller amounts, we suggest the ATM." Laura blinked. She only needed $500 for a handyman who only took cash. She wasn't walking around with bricks of money in her purse. "Actually, I just need $500, she said softly. And that was it. The moment the invisible line was crossed, Christina scoffed loud enough for her co-workers to look over. Two tellers nearby exchanged knowing smirks. One even chuckled. $500? Christina repeated, the number coded in sarcasm, like it was a dirty word. "We generally serve clients who maintain a certain balance or handle more significant transactions." Laura's face flushed. Her account had plenty. That wasn't the issue. But now it felt like a courtroom. And she was the accused with no crime, no lawyer, and no respect. "I have more than enough in my account. Is there a reason I can't withdraw $500 here?" she asked. Christina didn't answer her. Instead, she turned to another teller, voice high and theatrical. "Says she has more than enough in her account." Robert, a tall man with a half smirk permanently stamped on his face, pretended to type as he chuckled under his breath. Something in Laura snapped, not loudly, not with rage but with quiet frustration. This wasn't about money. This was about how she looked. About her plain blouse, her thrifted jeans, her soft-spoken voice. She'd seen this script before. "Is there a manager I can speak to?" she asked, steadying her tone. Christina rolled her eyes with the finesse of someone who did it 10 times a day. "Of course, but I'm sure he'll tell you the same thing." She tapped her desk phone like it was a nuisance. A few beats later, a silver-haired man emerged, suit tailored within an inch of its life. Henry, manager, and judge of all things elevated. "I'm Henry, the manager here. Is there a problem?" Laura explained calmly, carefully. She just wanted a small cash withdrawal. She didn't mind waiting. She didn't mind procedure. She just wanted basic service. "Ma'am, we pride ourselves on efficiency," Henry said. "We reserve our in-person services for clients with elevated needs." The word elevated slid from his mouth like it required a membership card to understand. Laura nearly blurted her account balance generally, but why should she? Was self-worth now measured by dollar signs and jewelry? Fine, she said quietly, offering a strained smile. I'll use the ATM. Henry nodded like a judge dismissing a petty case. Down the hall, second left. Laura turned away, jaw clenched, heartbeat quick. As she walked off, she heard Christina's voice clear, smug, just loud enough. Some people just don't understand how things work around here. Her ears burned, but she didn't turn around. She walked. Past walls lined with awards, past framed photos of charity galas and client first, plaques that now felt like a sick joke. Sterling Skybank, where respect was reserved, like parking spots. Finally, she reached the ATM section. It was roped off. A handwritten sign mocked her silently. Out of order. Please use main lobby. Her heart sank, and somewhere deep down, something inside Laura began to shift. Returning meant swallowing pride and walking right back into their sneers. But Laura inhaled deeply, gathered what was left of her composure, and stepped once more into the lion's den. As soon as she re-entered the main lobby, the atmosphere shifted. Heads turned, eyes narrowed. Christina's desk was exactly where she'd left it, along with the scorn behind it. Your ATM is out of service, Laura said softly. Though her spine was straight, she was ready for round two. Christina exchanged a glance with Robert, who now stared at Laura with open amusement, like a theater-goer waiting for Act Two of a comedy. Well, Christina drawled, that's unfortunate. You can always try the Uptown branch. Laura's jaw tensed. I need the cash now. This is my bank. You can process it, right? Henry reappeared like a bad rerun, his frown deeper than before. We typically don't process such minor withdrawals in person, he said. Then added, with surgical cruelty, especially not for walk-in clients. That word walk-in hit harder than intended. Laura had been banking here for 3 years. She wasn't a stranger, but apparently not dressing the part made her one. I'm not a walk-in, she said, trying to contain the rising heat in her voice. I have an account. So does my husband, and his is substantial. Henry studied her like she'd just claimed to be royalty in a paper crown. Ma'am, we handle accounts with average monthly balances in the millions, he said. Are you sure you and your husband have that kind of relationship with us? It was like being buried under invisible bricks, each word pressing down heavier than the last. Laura had never needed to throw around her husband's wealth. That wasn't who she was. But now, she was being forced to peel back her dignity just to be seen. I just need $500, she said, voice barely above a whisper. Please, kindly process that. Henry exhaled like she'd asked him to carry furniture. Christina, check her account. What's your account number, ma'am? Laura recited it. Christina pulled it up. Her face was indifferent at first. Then her brow twitched. She leaned toward Robert, whispering something with just enough secrecy to spark suspicion. Robert leaned over the monitor, eyes darting across the screen. Then he grinned. Oh, he said under his breath. Interesting. Henry stepped closer. Let's see. He bent forward. Account under Laura Daniels. Shows a moderate balance. He paused, eyes shifting. There's a linked account under a Thomas Daniels, not accessible from your login. Looks like a shared relationship. He sounded almost disappointed, as if he'd been hoping to confirm she didn't belong. Ma'am, would you mind waiting over there? He gestured toward a sleek, velvet-covered couch near the entrance. It looked like it had been designed for expensive suits and louder jewelry. Laura was too drained to argue. She walked over, each step feeling heavier than the last, and sank into the cushions like someone surrendering not to comfort, but to insult. She sat in silence, staring at nothing, while their whispers echoed behind her. Ridiculous. Why does she need it anyway? We can't just serve every random person that walks in. Each word sliced deeper. She wanted to leave. She wanted to stay. She wanted to scream and vanish at the same time. Most of all, she wanted to remind them she had a right to be there. She was just about to rise and speak when a tall woman with dagger-sharp posture and a nameplate reading, Alicia, Customer Relations Manager, swept into view. Her heels clicked like punctuation marks as she walked up. I've been informed you're requesting an in-person withdrawal for a small amount, Alicia said in the same tone one might use when announcing a parking ticket. Our policy. she continued, voice clipped and practiced, states that such transactions are handled via ATM or online banking. Laura tried to control her shaking hands. Your ATM is broken. I only need $500. This is my bank. Isn't it possible to just help? Alicia's eyes flickered with practiced apathy. We are currently managing a high volume of VIP clients. Processing such a minor request disrupts our workflow. If you were a private banking client, we gladly assist. But as it stands, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The silence said it all. Laura felt something sting behind her eye shot, angry tears threatening to spill. She dug through her purse, as if she might magically produce something to prove she mattered. But what could she show them? A bank app? A balance? Her worth wasn't printed on a receipt. Then Robert approached again, with a smirk as greasy as his tone. You could always ask your husband, he said. If he's got that big account, maybe he could just wire you the money. Save everyone the hassle. And that was the breaking point. Laura stood, not with rage, not with panic, just with precision, shoulders back, eyes steady. Fine, she said, barely audible. I'll call my husband. Snickers passed through the staff like static. Henry coughed into his fist to hide a grin. Alicia tapped her watch dramatically and walked away, like a queen dismissing a jester. Laura turned, stepped outside, and took a breath that didn't taste like shame. She pulled out her phone. Her hands still trembled, but not with fear. Now it was fury wrapped in control. She dialed the number. Thomas Daniels was in the middle of an international meeting, closing deals that spanned continents. He was the last person she wanted to disturb. But the moment he picked up and heard her voice, everything shifted. Laura, he said, what's wrong? Who's treating you like this? She tried to make it sound small, tried to swallow the lump in her throat. I just needed a little cash, but they won't help me. The ATM's broken. They keep acting like I don't belong here. I asked for the manager, but she trailed off, too tired to finish. There was silence on the other end, but it wasn't passive. It was calm before a storm. Which branch is this? He asked quietly. She told him. Stay right there, he said. Give me a few minutes. She didn't know what he was planning. She only knew one thing. Thomas Daniels wasn't just wealthy, he was quietly unstoppable. And now, he was on his way. The staff at Sterling Sky Bank had no idea they were poking a hornet's nest wrapped in a billion-dollar suit. They didn't just insult Laura, they unknowingly stepped on the pride of a man whose net worth could buy and sell the building they were standing in twice. Outside, Laura paced, her phone clutched like a lifeline. Through the glass, she saw Alicia shaking her head at Henry, rolling her eyes as if Laura was a stray dog who'd wandered in. Trying to calm her racing heart, Laura stepped back inside. She didn't get far. Christina greeted her with a venomous smile. Back so soon? Let me guess husband's too busy to rescue you? That was it. Laura bit down hard on the sting behind her eyes. No tears. Not for them. She just walked to the same plush couch and sat silent, still and absolutely done with being polite. The security guard from earlier strolled over, casual and cocky. Ma'am, if you're not conducting business, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Laura looked up, deadpan. I am conducting business. I'm waiting for my husband to confirm something. The guard shrugged. Suit yourself. And so began the slowest 10 minutes of her life. She sat like stone while the staff occasionally threw her glances, some amused, others openly irritated. Actual VIPs walked in and were treated like royalty. Fresh espresso, toothy grins, fawning. One man in a tailored suit got the red carpet from Henry, who practically bowed. Another woman, dripping in luxury, was swept into a private lounge like royalty. Laura felt invisible in her own bank. But that illusion shattered the moment the front doors slammed open. 3 men in tailored suits entered, sharp, expressionless, and all carrying sleek briefcases. They didn't look like clients. They looked like a corporate audit come to life. Henry lit up, mistaking them for high-powered investors. Gentlemen, welcome to Sterling Sky. How can we assist you? Laura's eyes zeroed in on something small but unmistakable. A silver hawk pin on each of their lapels. Raptor Guard. Her husband's private security firm. Her pulse kicked into overdrive. The lead man stepped forward, his voice smooth and commanding. "We're here on behalf of Mr. Thomas Daniels. Please escort us to your main conference room. We have urgent matters to discuss." The room froze. Christina dropped her smug posture. Alicia stopped mid-stride. Robert actually stopped chewing his pen. Henry paled. "Mr. Daniels?" he stuttered. Is he coming too?" They didn't get a chance to answer. The doors swung open again, this time with finality. Thomas Daniels strode in. No power suit, no press entourage, just a man who had clearly dropped everything mid-meeting. Rolled up sleeves, loosened tie, controlled rage simmering just behind ice-blue eyes. Laura shot to her feet. He walked straight to her, voice low and intimate. "You okay?" he asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She nodded, her throat tight with gratitude. Then he turned. The lobby air turned to lead. "Who's in charge here?" he asked, his voice slicing through the silence. Henry stepped forward, visibly sweating. "I'm the floor manager. How can I?" Thomas's jaw clenched. "You can explain why my wife was denied a withdrawal from her account." Henry tried diplomacy. "Sir, we have policies that guide how we handle in-person services. For smaller amounts, we typically—" "But your ATM was broken," Thomas interrupted, voice flat. "So you advised her to leave?" Henry stumbled. "We suggested she try another branch." "You refused to give her her own money," Thomas said. Alicia slid in, trying to help her control the fallout. "Sir, we have protocols in place. Our VIP services are reserved for high-value clients conducting large-scale transactions. We simply don't have the capacity to serve every small request," Thomas finished for her, his eyes narrowing. "I see." Alicia stood her ground. "Mr. Daniels, we know you have an account here, but we don't typically process trivial withdrawals like $500 through our VIP staff." Thomas tilted his head slowly. "Trivial," he said, like the word tasted wrong. He glanced at Laura, who trembled faintly, remembering every snide word and condescending glance. Then he turned back to the staff: Henry, Alicia, Christina, Robert, who now looked like schoolchildren waiting for a principal's verdict. "My wife came in, asked politely for $500, he said evenly. "You mocked her. You belittled her. You made her feel unwelcome. That sound about right?" No one spoke. They didn't have to. Their silence said it all. Thomas gave a single nod. The lead Raptor Guard officer stepped forward, opened a sleek black briefcase, and handed over a stack of documents. Thomas scanned them quickly, then looked at Henry. "I'm closing all of my accounts with Sterling Skybank. Effective immediately." Henry's breath caught. "That includes personal, business, and every trust fund I've parked here. That also includes the investment portfolio." He let that settle before adding, casually, "Last count was around $2 billion, give or take." The sound that followed wasn't a gasp, it was a shockwave. Alicia's lips parted in horror. Robert dropped the pen he was fiddling with. Christina mouthed the words $2 billion, like she was reciting a curse. Henry turned gray. "Mr. Daniels," he began, voice dry and desperate, "there must be some misunderstanding. We value you and your wife deeply. We simply have guidelines." Thomas cut him off, handing him the papers. "Those are the formal instructions. Close every account, mine, hers, and every affiliate I control. I'll take my money somewhere clients are treated with basic human respect." Henry's hands trembled as he fumbled through the documents. Alicia tried one last lifeline. "Sir, we can fix this. We'll issue an apology immediately, process any transaction she wants, in a private suite, if that's what you prefer." Thomas looked at her like she was a stranger. "An apology after the fact doesn't undo the damage. You looked at my wife and decided she didn't matter, that she wasn't worthy. That's not a bank I do business with." By now, even the barista with the cappuccino cart had frozen mid-pour. Henry looked seconds from collapse. Alicia gently touched his shoulder, eyes pleading for a miracle that would never come. Even the security guard stood motionless, stunned. There was no talk of escorting anyone out now. Because in the span of minutes, The power in that lobby had shifted completely and irrevocably. One of Thomas's security men stepped forward, phone to his ear. He nodded crisply. "Sir, the wire transfers are prepped. We just need your final signature." Thomas turned to Laura, his voice softer now. "Honey, do you want to sign off on it, or should I?" Laura hesitated, still feeling the aftershocks of everything that had just unfolded. Her eyes swept the lobby. The staff who had once scoffed now looked like statues carved out of panic. Part of her felt a flicker of pity. Losing $2 billion would no doubt create chaos at every level of the bank. But then she remembered the sneers, the smirks, the way they made her feel like she didn't deserve basic human courtesy. She reached for the pen. "I'll sign," she said, her voice steady and sharp with quiet resolve. They guided her to a side table. With one elegant stroke of ink, she signed her name and sealed the bank's fate. In that moment, all the arrogance, all the smug superiority on the staff's faces evaporated, replaced with desperation and dread. Henry opened his mouth, clearly searching for a miracle. Robert looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Christina was suddenly very interested in her fingernails. Alicia approached gently, placing a tentative hand on Laura's arm. "Ma'am, please," she said, voice much smaller than before. "There's no need to go this far. We can fix this. Laura calmly pulled her arm away. She didn't need to speak. Her expression said everything. You had your chance. Thomas added his signature beside hers and turned back to the room. His voice was businesslike, but cold. "We'll be issuing a press statement about the withdrawal. No need for details, but if this story leaks, and I suspect it will, you can bet it won't reflect kindly on Sterling Skybank." Henry looked like he'd just swallowed a brick. He stared at Thomas, speechless, likely imagining the storm about to rain down from his higher-ups. Thomas nodded to his security team, who began neatly collecting the finalized paperwork. Laura offered the staff one last look. A swirl of emotion passed through her: anger, sadness, something like vindication. But above all else, relief. Relief that she could finally leave this place with her dignity intact. Together, she and Thomas walked toward the exit. Clients waiting in the lounge parted instinctively, as if clearing a path for royalty. A few recognized Thomas' eyes wide, jaws slack, whispers trailing behind them like smoke. Laura didn't care. She just clutched Thomas's arm, grounded in his unwavering support. Right before they reached the glass doors, Christina called out, weak, cracking, "Ma'am, I'm sorry." Laura paused for the briefest second, looked over her shoulder. No smugness, no comeback, just a simple, polite nod. Then she walked out. No words needed. The message had landed. The final blow had already fallen. Outside, the sun felt warmer than before. Laura took in a deep breath, the kind that clears months of self-doubt. Thomas turned to her. His gaze softened. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I'm sorry I pulled you out of your meeting." He gave a small shrug. "There's nothing more important than standing up for you when someone disrespects you." She smiled, her heart tugged by the truth in his tone. "I still can't believe you're pulling $2 billion out." He chuckled faintly. "I can always move money, but your self-worth? That's non-negotiable." She leaned into him for a moment, letting the moment settle deep in her chest. Then, brushing away the last of her unease, she said with a glimmer in her eyes, "Let's go home. Maybe stop by a local ATM on the way?" Thomas laughed, and with it, the last of the tension dissolved. In the days that followed, the story spread like wildfire. Thomas never intended to cause a scene, but someone at the bank must have talked. Soon the whispers turned to headlines. Financial forums buzzed. Business pages ran features. A plainly dressed woman denied service, until her billionaire husband arrived and withdrew $2 billion on the spot. To some, it was poetic justice. To others, a modern fairy tale. A few thought it had to be fiction. But inside the bank, it was a full-blown crisis. Henry was swiftly demoted, held responsible for mismanaging a VIP account. Alicia, Robert, and Christina all faced disciplinary action, pay cuts, and public reprimands. The entire branch was slapped with mandatory customer sensitivity training. As for Laura, she never gloated, never posted, never bragged. She still wore modest clothes, still believed in decency and giving people the benefit of the doubt. She and Thomas moved their finances to a smaller bank, one that greeted them by name. No pretense, no judgment. Whenever she needed a small withdrawal, Laura walked in, smiled at the staff, and was treated like what she always had been, a valued customer. Enjoyed this story? Show it some love with a like. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share it with someone who needs a reminder. Respect should never come with a price tag. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories with unexpected, satisfying twists. See you in the next one.